In the quiet stretches of the Wild West, where the sun set in fiery hues and stars blanketed the night sky, a widow named Clara made her home. She was a strong woman, sturdy and resilient, with a spirit that could weather any storm. Clara had faced many hardships since her husband's passing, but she never allowed sorrow to take hold of her heart. Instead, she found companionship in her loyal German shepherd, Maximum. Together, they carved out a life in an old cave nestled just outside town. The cave was not grand, but it was protective. The stone walls guarded them from the howling winds and freezing temperatures that sometimes swept through the plains. Clara took great care to make it a warm and inviting place. She built a sturdy stone fireplace that crackled with warmth during the chilly nights. As flames danced in the hearth, Clara found solace in their glow, feeling safe and secure with Max curled up beside her. Life in the cave was not without its challenges. Clara worked hard, tending to her small patch of land where she raised a cow, 2 goats, and a few chickens. They provided the food she needed, milk from the cow, eggs from the hens, and hearty meals from the goats. Each day began with chores, feeding animals, gathering firewood, and ensuring they had enough supplies to last through tough times. She stored a pile of firewood nearby, ready for when winter's chill would settle over the land. Despite her resourcefulness, the townspeople eyed Clara with skepticism. Whispers echoed through town about the choice she made to live in a cave. "What kind of woman lives like that?" they would say with snickers behind cupped hands. Clara shrugged off their mockery. She knew her heart was as large as her home. Her bond with Max offered comfort in lonely moments and laughter when they played together under the wide-open sky. Yet as summer faded into autumn, Clara could feel a change in the air. The winds grew colder and brought with them an inkling of what winter might have in store, a time when even those who laughed would soon find themselves seeking warmth and solace from a bitter cold that hid beyond their doorsteps. Little did they know that Clara's humble cave would soon become their only refuge against nature's harsh embrace. Clara had not always planned to live in a cave. After losing her husband, she wandered into the wilds near the town, searching for peace and a place to gather her thoughts. One day, while exploring the rugged hills, Max ran ahead, his nose twitching with curiosity. Suddenly, he stopped in front of a dark opening in the rock. Clara approached slowly, and as she stepped inside, she felt an immediate sense of safety wash over her. The cave was deep and cool, with stone walls that seemed to embrace her. Clara smiled at Max, who wagged his tail as if to say, "This is it." While it was not much, just a shelter boasting a dusty floor and dripping water from the ceiling, Clara could envision turning it into something special. With determination in her heart, she rolled up her sleeves and set to work. Her first task was to build a fireplace. She found stones scattered nearby and carefully arranged them in a circle at the back of the cave. Hours passed as she piled rocks together until they formed a sturdy structure. Soon, she found dried branches and twigs outside, collecting them one by one until she had gathered enough for kindling. With a few sparks struck from her flint, Clara coaxed life into the fire. Flames flickered and danced as warmth enveloped the cave. It felt magical. As days went by, Clara embellished their home further. She hung dried herbs from the ceiling and gathered soft materials like leaves and grass for bedding. The cave transformed from an empty cavern into a cozy haven filled with the delightful aroma of smoldering wood and fresh herbs. To make the space even more homey, she painted cheerful images on stone walls using crushed natural pigments. Max loved their new home as much as Clara did. They spent evenings curled up beside the fire, gazing into the flames as shadows danced around them. Outside was wild and untamed, but within those stone walls, they had created a warm nest, a place where love and resilience could flourish. Even as night fell and stars twinkled overhead, Clara felt assured knowing they were safe from elements outside. Little did she know that this cozy sanctuary would soon hold great importance not just for her and Max but for the townspeople seeking refuge in winter's coldest grasp. Life in the Wild West was not easy for a single woman like Clara. Each day presented new challenges, and the weight of responsibility rested heavily on her shoulders. Gathering food was a daily task that required strength and determination. With Max by her side, she would rise before dawn, ready to face whatever the day held. The land around the cave was rugged, filled with thorny bushes and steep hills that made it difficult to find enough resources. Clara tended to her small farm, which included a cow, 2 goats, and chickens. She made sure to feed them each day, knowing they were essential for her survival. However, keeping her animals safe was another daunting challenge. Wild predators roamed the area. Coyotes and hawks often lurked nearby, eager to snatch an easy meal. Clara learned to be vigilant. She spent countless evenings watching over her livestock as they grazed, always alert to any signs of danger. When it rained or snow fell, Clara's work doubled. She needed to ensure her animals had enough shelter and food to last through harsh weather. She gathered hay from nearby fields and stored it in the cave for when the snow covered the ground. On particularly cold nights, she would bring the goats into the cave with her, where they could huddle close to the warmth of the fire. Despite the difficulties she faced, Clara found ways to adapt. She became resourceful, learning how to make traps for small game like rabbits and squirrels. Every meal felt like a hard-won victory after hours of searching and preparing. She also built a small garden near the entrance of the cave, planting vegetables like potatoes and carrots that could withstand the changing seasons. The townspeople's mockery echoed in her mind at times when she felt overwhelmed. "What kind of woman lives in a cave?" they would say as she passed by with Max at her side. But Clara refused to let their words discourage her. She knew she was capable of taking care of herself. Each challenge only made her stronger and more determined. Through all these trials, Clara continued to grow as a person. Her bond with Max deepened, and together they faced each day with courage. As winter loomed closer, she prepared for whatever might come their way, knowing that their cozy cave home would soon become more than just a shelter. It would be a refuge for others in need. Clara's life revolved around her animals, who were not just companions but essential for her survival. Each morning, she would rise early, the sun barely peeking over the horizon, and head out to care for them. The cow, named Bessie, provided Clara with fresh milk, a vital source of nutrition. Clara learned to churn the milk into butter and occasionally make cheese, adding variety to her meals. The 2 goats, named Daisy and Clover, were spirited creatures that often butted heads playfully. They were a source of meat when needed, but Clara cherished them as part of her little family. Their milk also added to her diet, and she enjoyed making sweet goat's milk yogurt to eat with honey she had saved from the previous summer. The goats provided companionship as well. She loved to watch them frolic about the cave entrance, their antics always bringing a smile to her face. The chickens clucked merrily as they wandered about the cave area. Clara had built a small coop to keep them safe at night from predators. In return for their care, they laid fresh eggs almost daily. Each egg was a treasure, satisfying her hunger and allowing her to prepare hearty meals like omelets or baked goods. Clara felt proud as she gathered eggs from their nests, knowing that each one represented not just food but hard work and dedication. As Clara tended to her animals, she realized how much they relied on her. In challenging weather, she would ensure they had enough food and shelter. During storms, she would sit beside Bessie in the cave while Max lay protectively at their feet, listening to the rain pelt against the rocks outside. Those moments brought her peace. She knew that no matter how hard the world outside was, within those stone walls, they were safe. Despite the physical labor involved in raising her animals, Clara found joy in the simple routines of farm life. Her bond with each creature grew deeper as they depended on one another for survival. They were more than just animals, they were Clara's lifeline in the harsh Wild West landscape. However, she knew that as winter approached, keeping her animals healthy would be crucial. She began storing extra hay and feed in preparation for the cold months ahead. With every effort she put into caring for them, Clara felt a sense of purpose. Her small farm was a testament to her resilience and determination to thrive against all odds. As Clara continued to live in her cave, whispers about her spread throughout the small town. The townspeople, many of whom had known her husband, couldn't understand why she would choose such an unusual home. "What kind of respectable woman lives in a cave?" they would say with scoffs and laughter. Their words stung like thorns, but Clara refused to let their judgment break her spirit. Each time she ventured into town with her German shepherd, Max, by her side, curious glances followed her. Children pointed at her, giggling, while the adults exchanged knowing looks. "Isn't it strange?" one woman remarked to another as they passed Clara in the market. "A cave for a home! She must be losing her mind." Clara could hear their chatter. It was impossible not to when they were so loud and bold. Nonetheless, she held her head high and went about her business, buying supplies for herself and the animals she cared for so dearly. A few townsfolk would offer a hesitant nod or quick smile, but more often than not, the laughter would follow her like a shadow. She knew they compared her living arrangement to what was considered normal. They had neat little homes with picket fences or sturdy barns that housed their livestock, a place where families gathered for warmth and comfort in the bustling town life. For them, living in a cave was nothing short of peculiar. During social gatherings at the saloon or town events, Clara felt isolated from conversations drowned out by mockery. Maybe if she had a proper house, someone would say loudly enough for everyone to hear, she wouldn't be so lonely. Those remarks made Clara's heart ache, but she reminded herself that happiness did not depend on others' approval. Still, there were moments when doubt crept into her mind. Was she truly doing well? Was living in solitude worth all the gossip? Yet every glance towards Max or each time she watched Bessie graze peacefully outside reminded her of why she chose this life. Her animals relied on her just as much as she relied on them. As winter loomed closer, Clara felt a shift within herself. She understood that while the townspeople's laughter echoed around her, it could never drown out the love she felt for Max and all that they had built together in their untraditional home. With every day that passed, their bond grew stronger, living proof that what others deemed strange could also be beautiful and life-giving. Little did those townsfolk know that soon they might come to seek comfort in her cherished cave when winter's chill came knocking at their doors. In the heart of the Wild West, Clara found solace in her bond with Max, her loyal German shepherd. He was more than just a pet, he was her confidant and protector. Each day, as Clara worked around the cave, Max would follow her closely, his warm presence a constant reminder that she was not alone. They were a team, navigating the challenges of life together. During quiet evenings, after tending to the animals and preparing their meals, Clara would sit by the flickering firelight with Max curled up beside her. As they basked in the warmth, she often shared her thoughts with him. "You know, Max," she would say softly, stroking his fur, "sometimes I wish people could see how wonderful our life is here." Max would look up at her with his big brown eyes, as if understanding every word. His tail would wag gently in response, reassuring her that they were a family. On days when Clara felt the weight of loneliness press heavily upon her, Max seemed to sense her mood. He would nuzzle against her leg or lay his head on her lap, offering comfort in his own way. Clara would chuckle and scratch behind his ears, saying, "You always know how to cheer me up, don't you?" In those moments, their bond deepened, proving that love and loyalty could flourish even in solitude. As Clara went about her chores, milking Bessie, caring for Daisy and Clover, or collecting eggs from the chickens, Max was always nearby. He would stand guard as she worked, alert and watchful for any signs of danger. His protective nature gave Clara peace of mind, allowing her to focus on her tasks without worry. Whenever she finished a chore, she rewarded him with a scratch behind the ears or a few pieces of meat from her hand. Their shared moments were simple yet filled with love. One day, while exploring the woods near their cave, Clara and Max stumbled upon a small stream. The sunlight danced on the water's surface as it flowed gently over smooth stones. Clara laughed as Max playfully splashed through the water, his joyful barks echoing through the trees. She couldn't help but join him, feeling carefree for the first time in a long while. They chased each other around the stream, their laughter and barks mingling in the air, a beautiful moment of happiness amidst the harsh realities of their lives. As winter approached, Clara knew the cold months would test their resilience even further. Yet she felt stronger knowing that with Max by her side, they could face anything together. Their bond was unbreakable, a testament to the love that could thrive even in the most challenging circumstances. Clara believed that as long as they had each other, they could weather any storm that lay ahead. As autumn began to fade, Clara noticed the first signs of winter creeping into the Wild West. The air grew crisp and sharp, biting at her cheeks when she stepped outside. Leaves that once danced in vibrant hues of orange and red now lay strewn across the ground, their colors muted as they surrendered to the chill. Max would bound through the fallen leaves, scattering them in playful bursts, but even he could feel the change in the wind. With winter looming, Clara prepared for the hardships that came with colder weather. She spent long days gathering firewood, determined to have enough to keep their cave warm during the harsh months ahead. The stone fireplace, a source of comfort and security, would need to be well stocked for those frigid nights when the temperature dipped dangerously low. Each log she carried back felt heavier as she thought about how much they would rely on that warmth. The animals also required extra attention as winter approached. Clara made sure Bessie had ample hay stored in the cave for nourishment when grazing options became scarce. The goats needed additional shelter from biting winds, so she reinforced their small pen with makeshift barriers to shield them from snow drifts. Each day was a race against time as she worked tirelessly to secure their safety and comfort. Clara's heart ached as she watched the landscape transform. The once bustling fields around her cave turned into barren stretches covered in frost. The chill seemed to seep into her bones, amplifying moments of loneliness that occasionally crept in during quiet evenings. Sitting by the fire with Max curled beside her offered some relief, but Clara couldn't shake the worry about how they would fare once winter settled in completely. Snow began to fall gently one morning, transforming everything into a white wonderland but also bringing a sense of foreboding with it. Clara stood at the entrance of their cave, watching the flakes swirl gracefully through the air before landing softly on the ground. It was beautiful yet ominous, nature's way of reminding her of its power. As days passed, more snow piled up outside their door, creating barriers that made even simple tasks feel monumental. Clara knew that soon they might not be able to venture far for supplies or food. It was a reality she had prepared for but still dreaded. During those moments of uncertainty, her bond with Max grew even more essential. He was not only her protector but also her source of joy and companionship amid looming challenges. Despite these hardships, Clara remained resolute. She believed deeply that they could weather any storm together. With every flicker of flame from their hearth and every shared moment between her and Max, she found strength within herself, a reminder that love and resilience could shine brightly even in the harshest winter nights ahead. As the days passed, the skies darkened, and heavy clouds rolled in over the horizon. Clara could feel a shift in the air, a stillness that often preceded a storm. She and Max huddled close inside their cave, the warmth of the fireplace casting flickering shadows on the walls. Suddenly, snow began to fall, first as delicate flakes that twirled gracefully through the air, but soon transformed into a fierce blizzard that raged outside their cozy home. The sound of howling winds filled Clara's ears as she looked out at the swirling snow. Visibility quickly diminished, and within hours, everything outside was blanketed in white. The once familiar landscape around her cave turned into a vast expanse of snow, making it impossible to see where the ground ended and the sky began. Clara's heart raced as she thought about how they would manage if this storm continued. Meanwhile, in town, panic began to spread. The blizzard caught many townsfolk off guard as they rushed to gather supplies for their families. People hurriedly made their way to shops and homes, trying to stock up on essentials before the weather worsened further. However, their efforts were met with challenges. Icy roads became treacherous, and travel became hazardous as snow piled high. Shouts of frustration echoed through town as people struggled to navigate through deepening drifts. "We should have prepared better," one man exclaimed angrily while trying to clear his path with a shovel. Others agreed, lamenting missed opportunities for gathering supplies before winter settled in. Children cried as they feared being stuck indoors without enough food or warmth. As night fell, Clara could hear distant voices carried by the wind from town, people seeking shelter or assistance from one another during this unexpected storm. She felt a pang of sympathy for them but also a growing sense of determination within herself. Their mockery had once stung her deeply, but now she found herself thinking about how her cave might provide warmth and safety for those who had laughed at her choices. While Max curled protectively at her feet, Clara decided she would not let fear consume her. She would be ready to offer help to anyone who may need it when the storm subsided. After all her hard work preparing for this season alone, she realized that perhaps this was an opportunity to show kindness to others who were struggling. With each gust of wind rattling against the cave's entrance and every flake of snow accumulating outside, Clara felt a shift in perspective. This storm could reveal whether true community existed beyond mockery and misunderstandings. As she settled in with Max by her side and renewed her spirit with hope for tomorrow, she knew they would weather this storm together, and perhaps emerge stronger on the other side. As the howling winds intensified outside, Clara remained alert, listening intently to the sounds of the storm. The snow continued to fall heavily, transforming the world into a blanket of white that muffled all other noises. She and Max huddled close near the fire, casting worried glances at the entrance, knowing that the blizzard was relentless. Suddenly, there came a faint but urgent knocking sound at the cave entrance. Clara's heart raced as she exchanged a knowing look with Max, who stood up and perked his ears. "Who could that be?" she whispered worryingly. With a deep breath, she moved toward the entrance, her pulse quickening with each step. She opened it cautiously, revealing a group of townspeople, their faces pale with fear and exhaustion. "Clara! Please let us in," shouted one of her neighbors, Mrs. Jenkins, her voice trembling against the wind. "We got caught in the storm. We can't make it back home." Without hesitating, Clara stepped aside and urged them in. "Come in." Quickly, she called out as they stumbled inside, shaking off snow and catching their breath. One by one, they entered her humble cave, men and women alike, shivering from the cold and shock of being trapped in such brutal weather. Clara's heart swelled with compassion despite past grievances. As she closed the door behind them, she quickly assessed how many people had sought refuge. There were 5 of them, Mrs. Jenkins and her husband, 2 young men from town, and even old Mr. Thompson, who would often scoff at her choice to live in a cave. "I never thought I would be here," Mr. Thompson muttered sheepishly as he took off his soaked hat and rubbed his balding head. Clara offered him a warm smile while handing out blankets she had prepared for such emergencies. With Max keeping watch over their new guests and ensuring everyone felt safe, Clara set about making them comfortable by stoking the fire and distributing whatever food was left, dried meat and bread she had saved for winter days. As they gathered around the warmth of the firelight, grateful murmurs filled the cave. The townspeople began to share stories of how they had become trapped in the storm and what they had experienced while trying to reach safety. Clara listened intently as laughter mixed with shivers created an unexpected camaraderie among them all, a stark contrast to previous mocking remarks she had endured from some of these very individuals. In that moment of shared hardship, Clara realized that her cave was more than just her home, it was a sanctuary for those who once judged her choices. Together they faced adversity side by side amid snow drifts swirling beyond their walls. As night deepened and more snow piled up outside, Clara felt a sense of belonging wash over her, a reminder that sometimes kindness could break down barriers built by misunderstanding. They were no longer just townsfolk, they were now neighbors united against nature's fury within this small refuge carved from stone and filled with warmth. As the night wore on and the storm continued to howl outside, Clara looked around her cave, filled now with townsfolk who had once judged her. The warmth of the fire illuminated their faces, reflecting a mixture of gratitude and newfound respect. They shared stories, laughter, and worries, breaking down barriers that had once separated them. Clara felt a profound sense of connection as they bonded over their shared experience in the face of adversity. "Who would have thought this cave would save us?" Mrs. Jenkins said softly, her voice filled with wonder as she wrapped her hands around a warm cup of broth Clara had prepared. "You've done a remarkable job making it a home here." Clara smiled, appreciating the compliment but also recognizing the shift in perspective happening around her. "It's not just me," she replied earnestly. "Max and I have worked hard, but we're all in this together now." As the hours passed, people who had once mocked her began to express admiration for her resourcefulness and strength. They listened intently to her stories about how she had adapted to life in the cave, finding joy with her animals and peace within herself. How they had snickered at her choices now seemed distant, overshadowed by the realization that Clara had created a safe haven when many were caught off guard. Old Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, his expression more serious than Clara had ever seen it. "I must admit, Clara," he said slowly, "I didn't think much of your decision to live here. But tonight has shown me something different. You've managed well without the comforts we often take for granted." You've created something beautiful out of what many would see as nothing." The atmosphere shifted as others nodded in agreement. They were beginning to see Clara not just as the widowed woman living in a cave but as a pillar of strength and generosity within their community. In that moment of acceptance, old wounds started to heal, the mocking words faded away, replaced by a budding sense of unity. As they crowded together for warmth, Clara felt her heart swell with pride and hope. The storm outside may have raged on, but inside their little refuge, the warmth went beyond the fire, it blossomed into understanding and acceptance. Together they forged a bond that transcended previous judgments, recognizing that kindness could illuminate even the darkest nights. By morning, when the snow finally began to settle, those townsfolk would emerge with a renewed sense of community, a promise to support one another through thick and thin, regardless of living situations or past misunderstandings. In that cave of stone and shelter, Clara had not only saved lives, she had sparked new friendships and fostered an enduring spirit of compassion among her neighbors, a lesson learned amidst the fury of winter's worst storms.